Let's talk about 4 popular financial decisions that I personally won't be making as a financially responsible 29-year-old. And of course, before we get into it, just as a friendly reminder, just because it's a decision that I won't be making doesn't mean it's a bad decision for you to make. It just needs to make sense for your life. Number 1 is that I will not be going back to school for a graduate degree specifically. So this includes like a master's degree in anything or an MBA. And the reason is because for the career path that I'm currently on and the career paths that I'm interested in being on, should I not be working on my business at a later point in my life, really don't require a higher degree. And I honestly just think that the ROI on a lot of these isn't there. That being said, I would go back to school in the future if I find myself starting a new venture that requires it. So the most common thing or like popular thing that comes to mind is like, I would go to culinary school, for example, if I found myself in a situation where that made sense for my life. But I don't think I'd go back to school in the traditional sense. Number 2 is that I will not buy a house just to own a primary residence. In the United States, we are force-fed home ownership. I've talked about this before. I am happy to talk about it again, but the math on buying a home currently does not make sense. Yes, rents will go up in the future. Yes, at some point I would like to buy a home, but when I do make the decision to purchase property, it's going to be because it makes both financial and life sense. And in the current state of my life, it doesn't make either. I can afford to buy a home and I choose to rent, which I feel like goes against a lot of people's inner ethos on what financial success truly looks like. But to me, at the moment, it makes more sense for me to be investing that money in the stock market and growing my financial foundation. And eventually I will buy a home at a later point in my life. Number 3 is I will not be spending $50,000 plus or anywhere in that range for my wedding. I'm not engaged, to be clear, but I would like to be married at some point in my life, hopefully in the next few years. That being said, when my wedding day does come, I will not be having a big grandiose wedding. I've never been the kind of person who's like dreamed of a wedding. I've never dreamed of being a bride. I think wedding culture has gotten completely out of hand and we're missing the point. And I think a lot of people use their wedding as a form of social media competition with people from other areas of their life, and they forget that like nobody gives a fuck. I understand why a lot of people have weddings. I understand the emotional aspect of it. I understand the celebration of it. I understand having all your people in one place, but it's just not something that I connect to. And it's also not something that I want to spend my life savings on for, a 24-hour period. And number 4, this one might be controversial, but I will not be altering my investment strategy based off of the president. I understand the emotions with the current political climate. However, in my personal opinion, your emotional feelings towards a sitting president, doesn't matter what side of the aisle they're on, has to be separated from a proven investment strategy. We've had presidents on both sides of the aisle ebb and flow for the last 100 years, and the stock market has historically returned about 7 to 10%. So I don't really care who the president is. It could be Elmo, it could be, I don't even know. But I will continue to invest in low-cost index ETFs for the next 4 years, for the 4 years after that, for the 4 years after that, no matter who is running the country.